There we go. Good morning.
Hi.
Hi, how's everybody?
Good.
Good. Okay, for the first few minutes, can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Oh, good. Okay. For the first few minutes of each class for this next session, I'm going to do like a materials review. You know, some people ask me about brushes. Some people ask me about masking fluid. So today I'm just going to do something very brief on brushes, paper surfaces, and masking fluid / ink. Okay. First of all, it's good to have, now you all can see the table here, I guess, right? You can see the table that's out there. Okay. This is a line of brushes, and I'm not pushing this line. I just
Karen, we can't see it because you're big. We
oh,
can't
she
see
said,
the table.
all right, where's Michelle?
I'm here.
Michelle?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm here.
Can we make the table big then? Spotlight the table?
Now we can see it, Karen.
I can't see it though. Now I see. Oh, there we go. Okay. All righty. This is a line called Silver Black Velvet, and it's quite a name for a brush, really. But the reason that I like it is that the bristles stay nice. It's not real expensive, and it makes for a beautiful stroke and surface on the surface of paper. I have here at the very end, this one is called an oval, and it has an oval shape to the bristles. You can see that I put this on white so you could really see. And it does just that. It covers a wide surface, and then it goes to a real narrow. I'm going to do that right on this piece of paper so you can see. And when you have to get into a real, pointed place, you can see that you can go in real pointed. Can you guys see this? Okay. So you can fan out from being very, very pointed and direct to being a real wide wash. So this is called an oval, and this one is 3/4 of an inch. Okay. The other ones are not so distinctive except for their size. This one is the same line, and this is an 18. An 18 I use for big areas, and it does just that. Get this. You can use it on its side. You can use it to do gradation. It really works the paint well. Okay. And the other ones are just various sizes. The one that's pretty distinct is called Script. It's the last one in the series that I have, and it's really kind of magical because if you need, the bristles are very long, and if you hold it kind of upright, you can really get exactly what they're saying. Very, very fine pointed lines. And it's wonderful for, say you wanted to write something on your painting. You know, you can really write a word, or you can do very, very detailed, very, very small areas you can get in there without any problem at all. You can make little dots. So this is called a script brush. Okay. The rest in the line are, just various sizes that you find that you need along the way. But if you're going to get brushes, make sure, even if you have to buy one at a time, make sure you get good brushes because they'll serve you well. They'll last a long time. Some of the brushes that I have, I've had for 20 years. Okay. Anybody have a question on brushes before I move on? No, I don't see anything in the.
You said they were called what brushes? Silver something?
Silver Black Velvet.
Silver.
And I'll tell you, Silver Black Velvet. And I'll tell you, they have them on Amazon, of course. And they have some that are sold in 3-packs, which is really nice. I think the the oval, the script, and one of the other sizes came together. So that's a really good buy. I don't remember exactly the price, but I remember it was much better than Jerry's that I that I remember seeing. Okay.
Karen, it's Marie Claire. Besides the oval, the 18-inch, and the script, what are the other sizes of the brushes you have in your hand?
Okay. The other sizes are let's see, and these are kind of my favorites: 8, 4, and 10.
Thank you.
So it's 10, 4, 8, 18, which is the gigundous one. The oval, which is very handy, that comes in alongside the big one, and then the script, which I'll tell you, I never thought it would be as handy, but it came in the 3-pack, and I really love it. So that's that on the brushes. Okay, now as far as paper goes, I think I've talked about this a little bit. The cold press is the best if you want a textured surface to your watercolor, where it's there, you can feel the surface and it absorbs the water nicely. Let's see, do they come in a set of sold individually? They come in a set, so that's that's good, and you can buy them individually. Say you need one specifically. So that's cold press, and I usually use 130 or 140 pound. And the reason for that weight is just it's either, and it's on a block or it's in a pad. Most of them are sold on a block because it really keeps the shape of your painting. There's the other brand, the other surface is hot press, and that's a very smooth surface. There's nothing wrong with it. It just depends on your preference. Okay, and so that's all about papers. You can use any paper, really, but what happens when you go away from using a pretty good paper is that you can't really get in there and work on the paper. Say you have to remove some paint where you add water and then you blot it off, and then if you're using masking fluid and you haven't taken it off right away, then it starts to take the surface of the paper off. I'm sure some of you have experienced that in the past. Okay, and the last thing on our equipment update, which I'm going to do this each week, is the masking fluid. Now, a lot of them come in pens. You've all seen those, but I'll tell you what I would recommend. And this is also an Amazon find, and I want to tell you, it is just wonderful. They're these little bottles, and they're called precision bottles. They sell them in a package like this. You can see this. Let's see. There we go. Freehand precision bottles, and they're very inexpensive. They come with a cap like this, and then this little cover comes off, and the masking fluid comes out of there. Now, in the beginning, it's a little tricky when you go to use it. I'm going to show you what I mean by that. And what I do is I keep a pin in mine to keep the flow going. Okay. If I can get the pin out. It's not behaving today. Sometimes it's temperamental. Let me get my other one. Hang on. And what it allows you is, it allows you the ability to do something with a very fine line, where the pens, they dictate to you a little bit. You know, I don't want to spend a lot of time getting this off. So, oh, there we go. Okay. So this is the way you hold it. This little thing on the outside is just to, if you want it, you can cut it off. If you want to keep it on, you can. And when you hold it just like this. You don't want to hold it where it's really super upright, because what happens is you get more than you want. You get more than you want. But you can see the degree of accuracy. And can you guys see that? Let me do it up here. Let me do this wavy line.
Karen, draw on the blue. We can see it better.
On the blue? Well, it is blue. So, really? Can you see it on there better? Well, let me do it on the darker area. Maybe
That
that's
you can
better.
see.
Yeah, that's
That's
good.
better? Okay. All right. So it's just a great tool. They come in a bag like this and they're wonderful. And once you get used to using them, you'll absolutely thank me every day. And how it comes is the masking fluid can come in a bottle like this, and then you just get a little funnel and put the funnel on there and keep refilling it. That way, the pens that run out, they run out and then you become frustrated and it's a mess. So try to switch over to these. They come with different openings. So that's a good thing too. Okay, now we're getting to our assignment. Did everybody receive the email
Mhm.
with the
What?
image? With the image.
No, I didn't get that.
Who said that?
Sue? Sass?
Sue. Well, that came from Michelle. So we need to get that to you.
All I got was the supply list.
Oh, well, Michelle, if you can send that over to Sue, that would be great.
I also didn't get it. This is John.
John? I don't know John. Okay, well, let's move on. Okay, here is the image. Here is the image that, let's see, the photograph. It's three things. It's really glass, a fabric towel, and a silver server. Okay, that's what's in the photograph. And the reason I picked those is because they're all different ways to handle different kinds of watercolor. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be showing you how to treat this. Now, this silver server that's on here, I didn't know what that was when I bought it, but I asked the woman in the store and she said, oh, that's a bonbon server. So not that we're all sitting around eating bonbons, but we don't need to have a server, or maybe we do. So when I put this together, I said, well, let me see what a bonbon would actually look like on there. So I took another picture and I put it in place. When you're setting up this kind of a composition, one of the first things I do is draw a vertical and a horizontal line. And what that does for me is it gives me 4 areas that I try to work in that will keep the proportion correct. Okay? Did anybody try their hand at drawing this? Okay, anybody else? Few people?
I used a grid.
Oh, that's fine too. That's just a little more intensive than this, but that's fine. I think there's a couple people that use the grid. Let's see, is there a particular brand of masking fluid? The brand I use here is HWC Utility. That's the name of it, HWC. Okay, I'll try to answer these questions as we go. All right, so I've really.
Excuse me, Karen, can you just twist your picture 90 degrees? And I'm going to take a screenshot of it so I can print it out. 90, the other way. Okay, one more time. And one more time.
Really?
Yep, that's it. Vertical to your fingers. That's it. Okay, thank you.
But you should really have that photograph because it's.
Yeah, but better than nothing.
That's correct. Better than nothing, at least while we're talking.
Okay, great. Thanks.
And
Karen,
Wendy,
can I ask a question?
yes?
Hi, it's Joyce, and I came in during the summer late because I didn't know about the mill, and so I kind of observed, but I'm brand new at this. Is this going to work for me, or?
You know what, Joyce? You will take away what you can. There's going to be people that know less. There's going to be people that know more. But just try to listen and observe. And then when we get to the next lesson, I will, go over things again. And I'm sure you'll learn something. It's a progression.
Okay, let's hope.
No, well, you know what? It's only paper and paint, and an hour of your time. So that's not a bad thing. Okay. Now, when I looked at this image, there were a couple of things that really struck me. Besides the piece of fabric having a pattern to it, a slight pattern in the background, and then the server, the bonbon server, having all that open filigree, was how can we attack this in a sane way? And the reason this is a little more intricate than you would imagine is that I just thought it was a challenge. And no matter what happens, some part of this is going to teach you something along with me, okay? So let me show you one of the first things I want to tell you is that you should look at the color palette. And I have the color palette up here. There are some leaves that I'm going to put in, which that's why there's a green and an orange. But the color palette are these four. The color of the dish, this depression glass pink dish, the color of the wood grain, the color that we're using on and off for shadows and definition, and then the color of, it's like a black or what they call a neutral tint color, which is, you know, in these stripes that are on the towel. Okay, so this is what you need to get going for yourself right out of the box. You need to do a drawing, whether you use a grid or not. Then you need to get your color palette set up because you need to have the colors in mind that you're going to be using. And then now we're going to get to the technique. I've addressed this painting two different ways, and I'm going to show you today. And I'm actually going to paint on the two different ways that I have it. Any questions so far? Rick Morocco. Okay.
Hi.
Okay. All righty. So I'm going to move right along. Any questions so far on color palette and grid? Because that's where we are. No. Okay. Then let's move ahead. Okay. Now this is going to look a little scary to you, but it's really not. Now I used the masking fluid when I looked at the server. I looked at all the holes and I said, well, what can happen here? Either I can use the masking fluid for the holes and then paint the color underneath, and highlights. So everything that you see on here right now that's masking fluid that's dry now, because I can't do it and then take it off when, you know, it would take too much time. This represents highlights, all the highlights that you see in the painting, okay? And I did it with this, exactly. Just, you know, put out more, put out less, put out fine lines, looked at this, and looked at the server where there's little highlights all around, and then all the cutouts in the holes. Okay. So that's one way. So I'm going to actually start to paint on this one. Now the second way is that where I'm not going to use masking fluid, I'm going to stop and leave whites. The whites of the paper are going to come through. So if you're a painter that does that, and many times I do that myself, I love the whites of the paper coming through because that adds the sparkle to your watercolor. It's the kind of thing where when somebody looks at a painting, and that's the other thing, remind yourself as you're painting, this is a painting. It's not a photograph. It's your impression of what you're seeing in the photograph. Okay? All right. So here we go. Now, I'm going to actually put in, and the other thing I wanted to do with these classes, I wanted to add a little bit of the fall season. So I have added, up here, I've added, you know, one leaf, and then I've added kind of a branch, which I found outside. You see this little doodah? Well, it's sort of right here. That's going to come into the painting, and then I'm going to have one leaf at the top. And you can add anything, you know, as you're going along, but have it in your mind before you start that perhaps you're going to be adding something. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in some of this background, some of the wood grain table, and notice that it's actually, if you looked at the photograph, refer back to this, you see this wood grain. it comes, you see it, and that's the other thing about painting glass. Glass is what you see through the glass that makes it look like glass, okay? So notice that when we're doing this corner, you're seeing the wood grain come through. Then up at the top, it's pretty solid with, except for this planking look. And you can either make it look like planking or do a flat wash, whatever is your preference. I'm going to be mixing up that color and putting it in. So let's get rolling. You can see that. Okay. Now, when I'm looking at the color, I looked at a little bit of yellow ochre, and then I'm going to put a little bit of red in there because it's going to get a little golden. That's a little too dark.
Karen, what size brush are you using?
This one is the 18. This one's the big one.
Oh,
Because I want to, and then you should always have nearby a testing piece of watercolor paper so you can say, oh, that's terrible, or no, that's good. That'll work. I think I would like it to be a little more golden looking. So I'm going to add a little more red to it. Okay. And then I'm going to put in a tiny bit of like brown. I just think, and when you're putting in these first tones, please keep it light-handed because you can always go darker. You can always go darker. All right, starting in this corner down here, I'm going to put this on. I'm going to go under the plate, around there. Okay. Okay. Now you can at this point, if you wanted to, you could create those planks, but you have to let this dry for a few minutes because it's just too wet at this point. Okay, let me take a little more color, and up here along the top of the painting is the same wood background. What this does for you as a painter, it lets you see all the items, and when something is white, like this towel, it defines the towel area to you immediately. And that's a good thing because you want to zero in on, you know, what's in your focus. Okay, so there we are. So now I've kind of put in a background down the side. Already, look how much whiter the towel looks. It's the same paper, but it looks much whiter. Okay, down here at the bottom, and I don't know whether you guys can see, the towel bleeds off the bottom and then it goes behind. So now, since I've added those leaves in there, I'm just going to put this in that bottom corner around the leaves, and just keep it light-handed. You know, keep reminding yourself, okay, I can always get darker. And there's a lot of, everyone has a personal color palette built in. I don't know if you know what that means. If you look at a group of your paintings, you'll notice that there's some colors that just always step forward and it becomes your personal palette. Okay, so right now you can see that things are coming much more into focus because of that background color that we've put in. Okay, all right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up that pink. It's a strange pink because it's not off right out of the tube, that's for sure. Okay, any questions so far? No, okay. All righty. Now I'm going to change the brush to the oval this time. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to look at that edge of that plate very carefully going around. Okay, now what happens when you get to this area right here where we've put down this, the background color? Well, I'm going to test over here before I actually put it there. I'll mix up the color. Now I have a few different reds. There's a color that I like. It's, I think it's a Daniel Smith color. It's called Potter's Pink. And it allows you to mix up a color that is kind of unusual. Can you guys see? And I'm going to test it over here. And I'm actually going to put it right over that background color because I want to see what's going to happen if I put that pink directly over that tan wood background. What would happen to it? Now you can see that you're seeing that through there, and that's the object of painting glass, seeing through. So I'm going to get to it. Now what happens is if your color is too light or too dark, actually only if it's too light, you will not be able to see your masking fluid very well. There has to be some weight to the color because when you rub off the masking, it's going to come white. So now this is not a bad color for that dish. Okay, so I'm just going to go right at it. And you know what? I could probably do this painting like 5 times, but doing it on the spot is unique. Okay, so I'm going to start over here. And what you want to do is, because the masking fluid is your highlight, you want to actually go beyond the masking fluid.
Oh,
Okay.
use masking.
Okay. And at the same time, look at your look at what's going on in there and seeing where things are lighter and darker. So I'm just putting down the basic color. I'm going to go right over this brown and see what happens. Now, if you looked at the picture, you'll see that the pink is not as prominent in the middle. So I've washed the brush out a bit, and I've taken some of the paint off of it just to give it a lighter feel and make it softer. Now I've gone a little too close, but that's where this brush comes in handy. You can actually get in there with that point and do that. Oops, there's a little piece of the glass behind the server at the top in the circle. Okay. Okay. Now what happens right away is that I see along the edge that this is lighter. So right away, I'm just going to take water and I'm going to go back in a little bit here and just drag a little bit of that color off of there. Everybody see that? And the same thing on this other side, where this is right here. I'm going to lift, and that's lifting in watercolor. It takes a bit of practice, but you can do it.
So there's just water on your brush right now?
Just water, and then I keep rinsing it and wiping it on a paper towel. That's the other really magical tool that you need. Water, clean, absolutely clean water. Okay. Okay, so now we have a little bit of the brown coming through there, and you see the color is changing. And you can see that slightly in the photograph. Now this area up here, that's one thing about watercolor. You know, everybody goes, "Oh, it's so scary. You know, I can't make any changes." Well, you can. Now I just took out some more color there, and I think the lightest part of this painting is right up here on this edge.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna really pull some color out there, and you know, use a paper towel, go back in. This is the time to do this. Okay, so you can see that it's starting to take form. Now, this is not gonna be that dry. So what I'm gonna do is just wait a couple minutes, let it dry. And if anything should happen here where it bleeds you know, don't worry about that. You know, everybody's learning, so that's okay.
Karen, it seems to me that you're getting better color by lifting after putting on something too heavy than you do if you put just a little bit of pigment and a whole bunch of water.
Yeah, you don't know the value until you actually put it on the paper. You know, it looks like one color on the palette, and then when you get it on the paper, it's like, whoa, that's a little too dark, it's a little too light. You know, how can I remedy that if I have to? But and then there's another area, and you say, imagine what's going to happen. Now I'm going to lift this in here a little bit too. And you know, it takes some practice, but you can definitely do it. And that's what this piece is for. I'm hoping that, you know, if you're painting on something like this, you can work at it where it's not the only one you do, where you can work on one and then say, okay, now I'm going to try another one. All right, so I'm going to let this dry for a few minutes. We're going to go back to it.
Karen,
But you can.
what size is your paper, by the way?
I'm sorry?
What size is your paper?
What size is this? What a good
9 by
question.
12?
This is 9 by 12.
Okay.
And the reason I'm using that is because it fits on the table the best. Sorry, we're vibrating. Okay, and it's actually, I like this paper for a lot of reasons. It's easy to travel with. It works well. Okay, and this is this is Archer's, and it's cold pressed, 130 pounds. All right, so now you can see what's happening in the color. I can't really put on anything here. I can't put anything else on here because it's too wet. But we're going to go to the other painting, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Okay. Now this one is on a bigger sheet because this is the one I started with. But in this case, I'm going to compare these for a minute so that you get a sense of what I mean. You can see here, this has the masking fluid on it. This does not. But what I did for myself was I indicated where I wanted color to come through that server. And you know, you shouldn't expect yourself to look at that silver server and paint it, you know, as if it's photographic, unless that's your style. If you really like to noodle and get in there, well, that's okay too. Then you get yourself a fine brush and you start looking at it and you blow up areas and you really get the detail. But that's not what I'm teaching, an impression here. And I'm hoping that's what you take away. Okay, so here where you see the highlights, there's masking fluid. Here you don't see anything, and I'm going to be leaving the whites of the paper as my highlights as I paint. It's a little harder to do that, but you know, sometimes it works and sometimes it's better and sometimes it's not. Okay.
Karen,
Yes.
on the first one,
Yes.
the one you just pulled away,
Yes, yeah, we're back.
where you took the large center area and lightened it.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, the edges are like hardened. Is there any way to soften that after the fact?
And I will, and I'll tell you where that's going to come in. Let me just try to compare this for a minute. I didn't worry about those edges too much because here's what's happening there. You see these strokes of other color that's on top?
Uh-huh.
That's what's going to happen there.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll get to that, believe me. Okay, all righty. Okay, so now the same kind of thing is going to happen here. What I'm going to do is put in some of that same background tone, and I'm going to try to indicate some of the planking this time. So this one is you are painting and distinguishing as you go. The other painting, the first one, is you are painting and then you're going in very light-handed and you will put in your detail in the next step. That's why, who asked me that last question?
Sue.
Sue. Okay, Sue, that was a good question. And it's like, you know, you don't want to overwork your painting too soon. Don't overwork your painting too soon. You can most of us, there are many times we overwork it to death, but don't do it too soon. Okay, so let me go back again. And let's get that background color in there again. Okay. Now, did anybody try painting anything, or did you just try drawing this
Me
image?
just drawing.
Drawing?
drawing.
That's perfect. I mean, if you started painting, that's okay too, but hey. Okay, well, we started with the yellow. We're adding some red to it and a little tiny bit of brown. Sort of the same method as the front. Now this time I'm going to actually make this a little, what I call beefier. So it's going to have a little more weight to it right out of the box, where the other one, I'm starting out very light-handed and we're building. This one's going to be a little beefier right out of the box. So that means I'm making the color. And don't forget, always have a testing sheet here. And the other thing I can do is I can compare, whoops, that wasn't good. I can compare one to the other. Here's where I am on the first painting, and here's where I am there. And I think I want to make it even a little more strong. Okay, now, because the same thing is going to happen where the plate goes over there, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this in kind of sections to make it look like the wood grain, the planking, actually. So I'm going to leave some space. This is the big brush again. This is the 18. And now the white that I'm leaving in between sometimes can be more distinct or less. And look at your perspective. That's the other thing. If you look at these planks on here, just look at how the lines come towards you or not. Okay. And in the end, you might say, I don't know if that's a little too distracting or not, but you can always water it down. There's always a solution with watercolor, and one of the other solutions is you start over. I've had that happen to myself many times. Because, you know, best laid plans. Okay. So now you can see that I'm going to hold the difference up to the other one. You can see one's a flat wash. This one has a little more, I think this one has a little more character right away. But, you know, it's a matter of taste. Okay, now I'm going to look at the other side over here and do the same thing. Now what's happening over here is this is like a triangle.
Nice.
Okay, and then we're going to leave space, a channel, and now if you don't want them to be so similar in value, just lighten up, put a little water on your brush. And then what if you want to go back to it having a little more color?
Can't see that corner.
I can't see you.
Oh, you can't see it? Okay, let me turn it around. Oh, I see. How we doing?
Better.
Good.
Okay, that's good. Thank you for letting me know. Okay. Okay, so right now, and if the spaces are too wide, just go back and add a little water. And that's the other thing that you can do when you're all finished and you say, oh, I don't like that to be white. You can just mix up color and then put a very light tint over top, and that'll close that up. Okay. Now I see I have a blossom over here on this side, so I'm going to go back and just try to lift that out. Okay. Okay, up on top, the same thing. Let's look at those planks going away from us. So if you looked at the grid, oh, can't see that. If you looked at the this grid and you see all these planks over here, what you need to remember is that wherever this one is, it's going to continue up here. So there's a little piece in the corner. Okay, then this is the one that continues down. So you need to make it look like it continues. Okay. The same thing here. So this is this one, and you come here. And when things are coming towards you, like in perspective, it goes farther away and it goes narrower to wider. Okay. And then we'll put this in here. I'm doing this kind of quickly because I want to show you more each time. And we have, and I'm hoping what you do between now and next week is I'm hoping that you give this a shot in whatever form you can. Meaning, you know, some time, a little time, a lot of time. Now we can go back in there and straighten those out a little bit. But you get the sense that it's sitting on something. You get the sense that it's on something. Okay.
Do you care particularly that the color seems so much more yellow on top, at least on what I'm looking at?
No, not right now, because this is what I call color blocking, where,
Yes.
yeah, you're not concerned about, but we're going to add to that, and it's going to make it either a different color or, you know,
Okay.
yeah. That's why when you color block in, it's sort of just like a roadmap to help you get to the next step. And when a painting is this intricate, you need a roadmap, believe me. And and you know, some people can now see the one way up here is very light, so I'm going to leave that really light. But what it does for me is it shows me it's a guide, it's a roadmap. It's like, okay, where do I go from here? Okay, now what I'd like to do, just because of timing, I want to be able to compare the background here and the background on the first one to together. And I'm going to add now the pink so we can see what does it mean to use masking fluid and what does it mean to stop and let the white come through where your highlights are. Now this takes a bit of concentration, so don't be impatient with yourself. Just, you know, and sometimes I do a little piece of something on the side. When I was preparing for the class, I did maybe 2 or 3 of these to say, what's the best way to handle this? Because I didn't want it to be too crazy looking and too much, you know, too much to absorb at one time. Okay, so let's get some pink on there. And right now it's just, okay, we can see everything. We can see where it's laid out. So I'm going to get some pink on. And then at the last thing I'm going to show you before the end of the class is what happens with highlights on this server. Okay, so let me get some pink on.
Do you always try to do everything with the same color and then fill in the next color because of color matching, or do you not care?
Color matching. Well, in this case, I'm thinking that I needed something solid to hold it together.
Mm-hmm.
But because I know being a watercolorist, you have to jump around so much. I mix them as I go, and I try to put on most of the same color at the same time,
Okay.
just to get a base. I mean, you'll see there's going to be a big change to the other painting that we've started already. Okay, so now I get back and I'm looking at that pink and I'm saying, okay, do I like that? Is it the same? Does it matter? You know, does it matter? Do I want to change it at all from that first one? Do I think it's a little brighter? Do I want to back off on it a little bit? Now, here's where you have to think and look at where your highlights are immediately, okay? So right away, I see, I'm going to show you one of the lightest areas. This edge of the dish right here is probably one of the lightest areas. So I'm going to put a little bit on, and then I'm going to just take water. Okay, and I'm actually going to go around. Now, if you see right here, there's some white highlight there. So I'm going to leave a space. And what you need to do is, when I say leave a space, I mean look at the shape of the space. That has like a, I don't know, like a moon shape to it. And then there's another little white piece that's below it. And then there's a triangular piece that's even below that. So I don't know, it's very subtle. I'm hoping you can see. Let me see if I can angle it up a little bit. Can you see those three? 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then there's one on the edge up there. And there's also going to be another one up here that I'm going to leave, like a long one, a long strip. So that's leaving your highlights as you go, as you go. Okay, now where it comes in behind here, it's even lighter. So I'm going to really put a very, very light piece in there, like that. And over here is the same thing. This is the lightest area on this painting. So I'm just going to get it in here just to, and we're going to put this over. Here's the same thing coming around here. Where are those highlight slivers? You have to look for them. Okay. Okay, so you see what's happening? There's areas that are being left open. I'm going to do this a little, continue this on a little bit. And right along the edge of the dish, there's another quite a prominent head highlight. Okay, now inside, there's several rings. So I'm going to just indicate another ring coming around here. And then right in the center, whoops, put a dot. It's really the lightest of all. So I'm just going to, and are there any highlights there? Very few. But what it does, it's going to distinguish where the server is. Can you see how it distinguishes the server really well? Okay, now I see a kind of a hard edge here, so I'm going to go back and soften that. Okay. All right. Now let me go back to any questions so far on this? Let's see. Ah, it's people signing out of Zoom, signing in and signing out. Okay. All right. Any questions on this one where we've left the whites? Believe me, we're going to see this again. This is not the end of this particular example. Okay, now going back to number 1. We'll call these number 1 and number 2. What I would like to do is I'd like to show you what happens, what color I'm going to put on that server right away. Now, there's a lot of things happening there. There are darks, mediums, and very lights. So what I'm going to do is pick the medium gray silver tone, which I'm using for that. And then you can add the darks, and we already have highlights here. So you're going to pick the medium gray. Okay. So let's see what happens. Now, there's probably not enough time for me to take off the masking fluid today, but I will in time for next time. All right.
Although the color of the masking fluid is nice.
Yeah, it is. I know. Sometimes that happens. And then when you take it all, you go, you know what I always do? I take a picture of it with the masking fluid and without. So, okay, I'm changing to a brush now on number 8. Okay. And what I like to do is, you know, even though the silver kind of looks gray, I like to mix up a color. And I'm going to show you what, if this, okay, if this is the darkest, the darkest tone, okay, and this is the lightest tone, can you guys see those? Yeah, we can. If this is the darkest and the lightest, what we are going for right now is the medium tone, okay? So what I like to do is I mix a little bit of neutral tint, which is a softened black. If you don't have neutral tint, then just soften up your black by adding a little blue to it, a little purple to it. Let me see if I can turn this around a little bit. Okay, now what I've done is I've taken the neutral tint on the palette. Oops, got a little something else going on in there. Oy. Okay. I'm going to mix it out here so we can really see it. Okay, so this is neutral tint. And I mean, that's okay. It's probably not dark. What happens is it always dries lighter. So what you have to do is either test it, wait and see what we're going to get, or just shoot from the hip. And that's what I'm doing. Okay, now to soften that even more, I'm going to add a tiny bit of purple, which, you know, does a little bit. And I don't know, when I'm looking at that server, I either see purple in that silver or I see some blue. So let's add a little blue too.
Oh, now we're going to the first one.
Okay, so now that looks kind of like a medium tone to me. If in fact we looked at what's dark and what's light, well, it's a little bit darker, but that's going to get even darker because here's the real darkest tone. Okay, so if this is the darkest, this is the lightest, then that's medium. So let's just jump in there and see what we get. You know, you can't always have the answer, but you certainly try. All right. And whatever brush size you're comfortable with, I normally use a bigger brush than not. Okay, so you're going around and then go back to your reference and see what's happening in there. And this does a curvy thing like this. And then now you're not worried because you know your highlights are there already. They've been accounted for. Okay. And you know, the drawing of this is not perfection. I mean, we like to have a nice drawing, but you know, I wouldn't worry about too much about the drawing of it. It's like, let's get the impression down that we like first. Okay, so that's a pretty good medium tone. Now I'm going to start looking at the edge, and it comes down here, and then we have this kind of wingy thing. And you go right over the masking fluid, because what's going to happen is you're going to go back in. You're not going to deal with the whites, but you're going to deal with the darks after this. So we'll go right over it. I just like you to look at the edge of this, the edge shape, and make sure you go beyond your masking fluid. Otherwise, you won't have anything to hook onto. So I'm going to put this on. Just go at it. And go back to your reference. Always go back and check and say, am I in a good place or a bad place? Okay. And you know what? If it puddles up around the masking fluid, that's kind of cool because it'll form another tone. It'll form another tone, which is kind of nice. And you can see where it's happening. And sometimes I'll even do it on purpose. Just to see what I mean by puddling. It sits in those spaces. And that makes for an interesting look. And once again, go outside your highlight. The other thing I should say is when you're mixing up a color for one particular thing, try to mix enough so that you're not left with not enough color. So it's always better to have more. Okay. So now I'm going back and I'm looking at the shape of this, and I'm looking at how this kind of comes a little rounder. And then this is a little more out there. And back up here around where the neck is, I'm going to make this come down like that a little better. Okay, so, and if you want to puddle up, go back in and add a little more of this medium tone. So this is medium tone. Now what happens here, just in closing for today, what happens, okay, this is going to dry, and you don't want to take your masking fluid off your plate area, but if this is dry, you may want to take it off of the server. And then what you're going to look for are the really heavy darks. And what I mean by that is what I showed you before, and try to mix up enough of this. Oh, that's kind of crazy. That's too heavy. Now what happens is you're going to go in there and you're going to find the really heavy darks that are almost black. And you're going to put in some detail right over the medium tone gray. But what you should do is take off the masking fluid first so you can see the whites. You'll see the whites, you'll see the medium, and then you're going to go back and add your darks. Okay, in closing, does anybody have a question about anything we discussed so far today?
How do you take off the masking fluid?
Oh, what a good question. Let's see. There's a thing called a rubber cement pickup, and it's like a little hard rubber block. They have them everywhere in the art stores, online, or it's called rub it with your finger. I've done both where I don't have, this is a much easier go, and don't leave your masking fluid on there for days and days. I put this on yesterday. If I left it on for maybe 3 or 4 days, it would be ripping the paper to try to get it off. So don't leave masking fluid on for a long time. I mean, heavy, this is heavy masking fluid. You can see that it's like piled up. Okay. Does everybody get the sense of where we're going here? It's kind of cool actually with the masking fluid on there. I'll probably be, and another thing is as you're going, as you're painting something like this, it's good to take a picture as you're going. And then you can see, you know, where you've been, where you're going, and, you know, take it all in.
Karen, I have a question.
Sure.
When I'm using masking fluid with the little tiny point thing to put it on with, it bubbles.
It bubbles. It might be the angle that you're holding it. I know sometimes if even with the small bottle or the pen, if the flow is not good, or if you're holding it too upright or too low, it will bubble. So just take a look at that. Okay, the angle. Anybody else? Hi, Kate. Is that Kate? I think so. She's probably done.
Hey,
Oh,
Karen.
hi.
Yes.
No, I'm here. I haven't even started. I started my drawing, that's all.
Okay. All righty.
When did you mail out that drawing? Because I don't see it either on my iPhone.
It
Oh,
came from Michelle at Lifelong Learning.
I see. Hold on. Nope.
yeah, they came from her. 'Cause they wanted me to send the
Hmm.
instructions and the photograph.
Okay. I'll have to look further then.
Now, if you send me, let me go over this real quick. If you send me your email, I can, if you, you know, my email is Bastille Day, Bastille, Bastille Day 14 at AOL.
Okay. I'll send you an email.
Can you get that? Can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Bastille Day. That's my birthday. It's the French Independence Day and all that.
Hey, Karen.
Yes.
I have a question about this server. I know what you're showing us, but looking at this to try to draw it
Yes.
or to identify highlights or darks, my eyes get crossed.
They do. Then you know what? Here's the thing. Draw your outside here. I felt a little bit like that in the beginning. I have to say. But what you do is just get an impression of the outside first. Okay, the outside shape.
Okay.
Okay, get that first. And then look at what's there and then kind of interpret. Oh, there's a thing that looks like a wing, you know, it looks like an angel wing. Then there's another thing that looks like a, you know, it's like a waterfall kind of down. And you know what? Don't worry about being so accurate in this case because this is a watercolor impression.
Okay.
So don't worry yourself over that so much.
Okay.
All righty.
Thank you.
But if anybody is missing anything, I can send you a photograph and I can send you the photograph of the setup and the photograph of the painting so far if you need it.
Karen, are
Yes.
you expecting us, or do you think it's a good idea to try both of these techniques with masking fluid without?
That
Or
would
either-
be wonderful, but
Okay.
don't make yourself crazy and it
Okay.
doesn't have to be real large. It would be hard if you work small
Yeah.
because there's just too much detail. And
Mhm.
next week when I go into the towel and when I go into, you know, whatever else is on there, it's you need it a little bit bigger. But you know, the other thing is you can do part of your painting just with masking fluid and the other part without.
Okay.
If you didn't want to do two paintings, sure. This is a lesson. You know, it's not a masterpiece in painting. But if it ends up being a mess, sometimes things come out of you know, by accident.
Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else?
Excuse me, Karen, I know you said this, but I missed it.
Okay.
What is the size of the paper you're using again?
This is 9 by 12, the small one.
Okay, thank you.
And the larger one, what is the larger one here? The larger one is 12 by 16.
Okay.
But 9 by 12 is a really excellent size. Not too small, not too big, easily handled.
Thank you.
All righty. Anybody else? Well, I welcome you back. And just to give you an idea, each week I'm going to do a real quick snapshot on materials, if I add anything or take it away. The second thing is we're going to get back into this painting. If you have any questions during the week, give me a holler. And if you want to show me anything, you can do that as well. And then we're going to be working on this painting for this week and the following week. And then we're going to be going into detailed things that have to do with fabric, leaves. You know, I'm going to try to tie in a little bit of the season color-wise. Okay, so I hope you'll be joining me.
I have one more question, Karen.
Okay.
You added some leaves, some blossoms in there. Do you want us to do that or just stick to the original picture?
Well, I did that so that you can see that it's really your painting. If you wanted to put, you know how I had that, I added that little bonbon on the bonbon server?
Mhm.
That thing, I just painted it on there. I pasted it on there because I wanted to see, although it's a little out of size. It would be nice if you did that. If you didn't, it's okay too. But I'm going to be painting one with something on it and one without. So you'll see both takes. Okay?
Okay.
Are we done?
Karen, somebody asked on the chat, somebody asked if this was a beginner class. I don't know who it was, but I just saw it.
Oh, I just see that now. Yes. Judy, is this a beginner class? Well, I don't think it's a beginner class, but what I like to say is it will entertain and educate at every level. How's that? How's that? Because if you're a beginner, you're going to see something about materials. Okay. This particular painting is not a beginner painting, but that's okay. Take what you may from it because you'll learn something for sure. And then the other paintings are going to be a little bit simpler, but you're going to be thinking back, what did I gain from this first one?
And if the person's still here, they're not alone.
But you know what? That's okay. I think that's the joy of this because every class I've ever been in my life, there's always someone that knows more and someone that knows less. So just find a space for yourself and, work at it. And I think that's the joy of it. I always like to be around people that know more than me and they can teach me something. But, if you should not feel intimidated and you should just, this is the wonders of watercolor will enlighten at every level. Okay. You have some nice work back there. And who are you, darling? What is your name? Are you Sue?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I see some lovely pieces back there.
Well,
Yeah.
each class that I go to for something.
Sure. Yeah. And
so I'm a beginner at lots of things.
That's okay. That's okay. Eventually it'll meld together.
In fact, I have a tiger from one of your classes.
Oh, okay.
That came out great.
See, there you go. And that's what's going to happen to this. There's going to be greatness here. Believe me. I hope so.
So I'm going to email you though for a copy of the picture so I can.
Okay, no problem. Anybody that has questions, that needs anything, I'll send you immediately as soon as you send me something.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to say adios unless we have anything else to talk about. Okay. Bye-bye, ladies. See you next week.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye. Thank you, Karen.
Okay. Bye, Lynn.
Bye.
Hi,
Thanks,
how are you?
Karen.
Okay. Hey, Sue, where have you been?
I've been talking to you. There's two Sues here.
Oh, Sue, yes, I know you're Morocco.
This is Sue Morocco.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I have a new grandson.
That's what I want to ask you. When did that come?
He came a little early. He came August 4th.
Oh,
and we had some, there's always complications and silly things that happen, but everything's wonderful now.
Oh, good.
And we've gotten into kind of a routine. And our first grandson, Miles, is going on 4. So he's the best big brother in the world.
Oh, that's what
And
you
the
need.
baby's gaining weight and growing. And
oh, great.
Mom and Dad would love some sleep, but that'll come.
Yes. Hey, send me a photo. Love to see.
Well, I have a great one. Great.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah, but I've been here. It's just that you have 2 Sues now.
I see that. I know. I saw the first Sue with the tiger, and then your Sue. Your fabric Sue.
Okay, I'm Fabric Sue. Sounds good.
That's okay too. Okay, ladies.
Thank
have
you.
a good week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi, Kate. Bye.
Bye.